myself and from Kodak the dog. It is March 19th, 2026. We're broadcasting live on Spotify, on Substack, Instagram, and on TikTok. You've joined us here on the Ignition News, your number one source for unfiltered news and information and action. That's the difference. We're not like these breaking news, amygdala hijack, freak out people. We tell you what's going on. We use the monotone voice, of course, and then we give you some actionable steps of things you can do about it because you're smart. You are an American hero. Let's get into some fun trivia. Before I do that, I do want to let you know that I do require of you to please take some time, go find us on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Substack, and go click that subscribe button. If you leave a comment on Spotify, I'll read it on the show tomorrow, even if it's a very mean one. So be sure to go put a comment over on the episode, et cetera, et cetera. Occasionally on Threads, I will say something, and the couch warriors of Threads will try to organize, and they will try to boycott my podcast by leaving negative reviews. This first started on my podcast, Ignite Fighting Fascism in the Age of Its Rise. But the thing about that is on Spotify, you actually have to listen to most of the episode in order to leave a review. So in a weird way, I deeply appreciate those efforts. But if you're the kind of person who listens to 17 minutes of a podcast about fighting fascism just to leave me a bad review, you are, in fact, a couch warrior. It is March 19th. Some facts about history today. Today was an 8-hour victory day in 1917. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the Adams Act. This was a big win for us here in the working class, establishing the 8-hour workday and, of course, overtime pay. What else do we have? First International Women's Day was in 1911. While it's now observed on March 8th, the very first International Women's Day was held on March 19th. Over 1 million people in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland marched to demand the right to vote, the right to hold public office, and the end to employment discrimination. It has been over 100 years, and we've just squeaked a little bit, but that's okay. We're making progress. What else? The FDA approved AZT today. That's a pretty big deal. That was in 1987. If you're less than a millennial, I remember Rent. Do you remember the musical Rent? That was like a huge part of the timeline in Rent was AZT. It was a treatment for AIDS. Big deal. It helped to move HIV/AIDS from essentially what was a death sentence to a condition that was declining and then, imminently treatable. It's kind of interesting to reflect on how that changed in my lifetime. If you're my age, I'm not going to give you my age, but you can see from my beard. I remember distinctly growing up as like 15, 16 years old, and that was something that we were very afraid of, right? Like the AIDS panic, especially from the GOP. Like they really made it seem like it was a way to discriminate against gay people and black people. It was that's what they used it as. And I remember a few pretty major things. I just talked about Rent. There's many things there, but I remember Princess Diana very famously hugging the AIDS patient, and everyone sort of in real time grappling with that. This, beautiful icon of culture, beauty, hugging the AIDS patient. And that was like, I'm just sharing this with you because like, I feel like people don't realize how far we've come some of the time. But yeah, just thought that was worth reflecting on. Anyways, I do want to just quickly talk about something that I found interesting. I'm going to cover this in more detail. Excuse me. I want to talk about the collapse of the empire. I was doing a little bit of a research for a longer format video. After the end of World War I, there was a British military officer and historian. His name was John Bagot Glubb. He was known as Glubb Pasha. Not really sure why. He was a commander in the Jordanian army for nearly two decades, and he reported directly to the king. He watched the British Empire collapse in real time. He actually watched 3 empires and 3 continents collapse. And he decided to go back and study 3,000 years of history to understand what is it that causes imperialism to collapse, what causes empires to collapse. And he came up with seven things. Hold on. I got to make sure I get these all right. Give me the modern equivalent as well. So here's what he found, his 7, and then I can tie it back to America. Number 1, pioneers, the pioneers phase. Tough, unified, purpose-driven people build something from nothing. Next, conquest. Military expansion and dominance is established. Number 3, commerce. Wealth accumulates through trade and productivity. Number 4, affluence. Prosperity breeds comfort. The hard values begin to soften. 5, intellect. Great universities, art and science. Number 6, decadence. Ruling class disconnects, civic cohesion collapses, society turns inward, and then the decline and the fall of the empire. So, in America, you obviously have the pioneers. I mean, you literally have the pioneers. Cowboys going to the west, moving the west. Conquest, military expansion, the buildup of the American military. Spanish-American War, World War II. Commerce, wealth accumulating through capitalism, the post-war industrial boom, American manufacturing in the golden age, the dollar becoming the global reserve currency. Affluence breeding comfort, the first billionaire. The consumer expansion of the 50s through the 1980s. American universities, stage 5, great intellect, some of the best universities ever in the world, in the planet. The collapse of the shared narrative, of course. Ideology replacing civic identity. And then now here we are in the decadence phase. The ruling class disconnects. Civic cohesion turns inward. Congress has an 8% approval, 22% trust in the federal government overall. Record homelessness, the opioid crisis, political polarization is at a 46-year high. And now you actually literally have billionaires buying the media and the elections. And then the decline. The structure falls apart faster than anyone expected. We are $38 trillion in debt. Manufacturing is at only 10% of GDP. Foreign central banks are actively dumping the US dollar for gold and the petrodollar. And now we have US allies openly hedging against American power. 7 stages of imperialist collapse. Where are we? Number 5, number 6, number 7? I'll leave that to you. I'll leave that to you to decide. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. Let's get into the actual stories today. You might be hopping onto our TikTok live because you saw this breaking story. Big story. This is a major story. It lines up exactly with what we've been talking about this morning. Several news outlets have reported that an F-35 jet was struck down by what we believe to be an Iranian missile while conducting combat missions over Iran. The aircraft was forced to make an emergency landing at a U.S. airbase in the Middle East. According to U.S. CentralCom, the pilot is in stable condition, and the incident is currently under investigation. This is the first time Iran has successfully hit a U.S. aircraft since Operation Epic Fury began. Each one of these jets cost north of $100 million. And what makes this particularly amazing was just this morning, Secretary Pete Hegseth stood in front of cameras and he told the American people that the American military is, quote, winning decisively, and that Iran's Air Force has been, quote, flattened. And just a few hours later, one of the most advanced stealth fighters in the history of the planet, actually probably the most dominant between the F-35 and the F-22, is now limping to a runway. And obviously we don't know the full picture yet. We don't have the whole story. We're glad that the pilot is safe. But I think of the F-35, this is yet another example of hegemony and the collapse of the empire. The F-35 was touted and advertised by Lockheed Martin as the superior air dominance machine. They called it a ghost. In the marketing material for the F-35, they called the plane a ghost, saying that it would consistently achieve air dominance. Well, ghosts don't have to make emergency landings, do they? Oh, I got my warning on TikTok already. Okay. Incredible. Good morning. I'm so glad that just happened. I'm just talking about the fact that an F-35, the most advanced fighter jet in the history of the planet, one of the most advanced, a 5th generation stealth fighter, was struck over the skies of Iran in a war we don't have to be in. And TikTok has decided to go ahead and give a warning banner at the bottom. Share responsibly on live. Confirm sources before sharing and engaging with content. Confirm sources indeed. So let me ask you a question. Who do you trust more, Pete Hegseth or the Ignition News? Let's get on to the second story. This is something that I thought was really important to share. We've obviously talked about this from the external before, but Jerome Powell had a press conference and he said something yesterday that was after the Fed decided not to move interest rates. And it's something that I think we intuitively know. It's been something that the financial press has been dancing around. But Jerome Powell said, what we really needed to hear, which is the truth. He said, the AI data center boom is pushing up inflation. In his words, they are building data centers everywhere, and that is, quote, actually putting pressure on all kinds of goods and services. He said it is, quote, pushing up inflation, probably pushing inflation up. So the head of the Federal Reserve, no wonder the president doesn't like him, is directly saying that the AI buildup by companies like Google, Amazon, and Meta is directly contributing to your economic pain, not helping it, hurting it. Since 2020, residential electric prices in the United States have risen more than 36%. I know we see that. I just started the show today. We're talking about how it's like we're trying not to have the air conditioner start because it's so expensive. Utilities requested a record $31 billion in rate hikes in 2025 alone. And of course, who gets hit hardest? Lower income housing. And so what we're literally doing is we're transferring money from low income individuals, the middle class, the working class, and we are quite literally subsidizing data centers. They are requesting and demanding all of this power. Power is an economy just like any other economy, supply and demand. As demand for power goes up, infrastructure has to go up. The cost of that infrastructure goes up, and the cost is not passed to the billion-dollar data centers, especially by your local governments. Your local government actually probably said, oh, if you build the data center, we won't charge you tax for 20 years. Please come here and build data centers. Please, we won't tax you. Please. You can use all of our water for free. We won't charge you any taxes. Please build your data center. And then your power company, some poor number cruncher at a power company somewhere probably got an email and it was like, fuck, there's a data center going up. We got to find out how to get 8 gigawatts of power over to this industrial warehouse somewhere. How do they pay for that? Your power bill is going up. Zuck is getting richer. Bezos is getting richer. Elon is getting richer. Elon's very close to being a trillionaire. I think we dance around this idea. You know, Bernie Sanders, I was listening to a book by Bernie Sanders just to kind of refresh, just because I love to hear that man talk, if I'm being really honest with you. We were talking about stimming earlier on the show today. I don't as much stim to like a good 70s jingle as I do to Bernie Sanders saying the word oligarch. And he said something, this was a year ago he said this, by the way. He said something that I think we have to confront. He said, Americans are uncomfortable with the word oligarch, but we understand the word oligarch. And he said even more, he's like, the media likes to say the American public does not understand the word oligarch. And he's like, they definitely understand the word oligarch. But what he was trying to connect that I think we have to just embrace is he was saying we live in an oligarchy. He defined oligarchy. Let me do what he did, and let's just define oligarchy. Okay. I'm copying Bernie right now. Okay. Oligarchy, a small group of people having control of a country, organization, or institution. You live in an oligarchy. If you're an American citizen, you do not live in a democracy anymore. You live in an oligarchy. And I just think it's important for us to point that out, to reckon with that. That brings us to our next story. July 4th is the 250th anniversary of the United States Declaration of Independence. It, of course, should be a shared national moment. Instead, a New York Times investigation and a string of congressional hearings have revealed that the Trump administration has turned it into a pay-for-play ATM. Congress created a bipartisan group called America 250 back in 2016 to plan the celebration. It appropriated $150 million for that effort. Then the president created his own group in December, a private partnership called Freedom 250. By the end of 2025, $10 million intended for America 250 had been diverted to the president's private Freedom 250. So what does Freedom 250 offer its donors, you're asking? The pitch deck is actually public. That reminds me, I should go pull that down. Give $500,000 and get VIP access to all events. Give $1 million and you get a private thank you reception with the president. You get a photo opportunity. Give $2.5 million and you get a speaking slot at the July 4th celebration on the National Mall. Give $10 million and your logo is, quote, most prominent. The National Park Foundation, which holds the money, allows the donors to remain anonymous. As for the events themselves, the New York Times described Freedom 250 programming as having, quote, lacked connection to American history and is tailored to the Trump political agenda. We have a UFC fight planned for the White House lawn on the president's birthday. The 250th birthday of the United States of America is our shared resource. It is ours. It does not belong to the oligarchs and to the president. Yet, they have created a essentially shell company to allow people to bribe access to your country's 250th birthday party. If you pay enough money, you get to speak at the July 4th celebration of the 250th birthday of the United States of America. What stage of imperial collapse is that? We live in an oligarchy. Yes, we do, Bernie. Yes, we do. I don't have much time to discuss this, but you probably also saw that Kristi Noem is obviously out at DHS. Markwayne Mullin, that name is one name, Markwayne. Never trust a man with two names as a one first name, by the way. I think that's a general good rule of thumb that I've come up with. I watched a little bit of the hearing yesterday. It was a pretty big joke. I do want to say I saw Markwayne's the guy that had that fight with Sean Fain, the union guy in Congress. And again, Bernie Sanders was like, you're a United States Senator, sit down. And he tries to fight with this union guy, right? Well, apparently they're friends now. He was behind Markwayne Mullin at the hearing. And I just have to say to you, my union brothers and sisters, I am always going to have your back. But your leadership does not have your back. The leadership of unions in America, as Marx would say, have sort of eclipsed the very purpose that they were designed for. Union organizing is the ultimate act of organizing for strength of power in America. There is no more effective example of the working class organizing and demanding power and successfully wresting power from the oligarchs than the billionaires. But union leadership across this country, not the union members, union leadership has sold you out. They are selling you out. The very people who should be leading, organizing, are just becoming part of the machine. In Las Vegas here, one of the most powerful unions in the entire country, Culinary 226. It's the union that all of the casino workers belong to. Politicians in Nevada would never dare speak out against Culinary 226. I'm one of the only people that has the balls to talk about Culinary 226. Every time I do, I get private messages from union members. They go, I really appreciate what you're saying. I can't say it loud. They even say, I wanted to like your post, but if I liked your post, I was worried that I would have some kind of retaliation. But thank you for saying something. Culinary 226 trenched out, dug out, demanded, scratched, clawed, pulled, argued, fought, and demanded with people on the streets fighting for your rights to have better wages, fighting to keep these bastards in the casinos from taking everything from you, our resources, our money, squandering it, paying you less and less and less. And the men and women of Culinary worked their asses off to get those rights. And the leadership now, they're basically just HR for the casinos. Free HR for the casinos. Culinary in Las Vegas, or all of the trade unions, Culinary should be organizing a general strike and shutting down the strip. You want to see what would happen in this country if unions started doing that? If they shut down the strip and they walked out of all the casino properties because tourism is down 7.5%, pay is not going up, we're subsidizing data centers more and more. These billionaires, the money, they just want more. That's a Bernie Sanders quote. They just want, they're addicted. It's like a drug. More. They should shut down every casino on the strip, a massive walkout. If they did that for just 3 hours, everything in this country would change. Business leaders would be on their hands and knees. Please don't do this, because if they did that to Las Vegas, they would do that to Walmart. They would do that to Amazon. They would do that to UPS. And the thing is, they have done this before. They have shut down. They have walked out. They've organized and they've staged when it was convenient for the leadership of those unions to amass more power for themselves. Marx would tell us this is simply the natural order of capitalism. Unions appearing to be systems of organizing and resistance, systems designed for the working class, but capitalism then comes in, favors, creates the conditions where the union leaders get to have the hockey seats at the hockey rink. They get to go to the little political thing where they get the little glass of wine. They get to meet the governor. They get to meet Elon Musk. And so they stop allowing and demanding the organizing that is necessary for you to have the power. So that is why I have no problem saying that. They are betraying you. If the Culinary Union shut down the strip because of what's happening in this country, they would only have to shut it down for 2 hours and everything in this country would change permanently. And they can do it. They should do it. And they could do it. I got in a little bit of a sidetrack there. But let me bring it back. It's not just the unions. It's not just the Republicans. It's also the Democrats. Because Markwayne Mullin, I watched his testimony. This is clearly the most unqualified man ever to be a senator. There's no question about it. Markwayne Mullin is embarrassing. His intellect is just not there. That's not a dig at him being smart or dumb, but some jobs require a certain qualification. He's a plumber. He has a plumbing business. Okay. It requires knowledge, training, certifications, licenses to be a plumber. Being head of DHS should have some qualifications. Rand Paul said no to Markwayne Mullin. If everyone had sat on their butts and done nothing, Rand Paul said no, Markwayne Mullin would not be head of DHS. Period. It would be a powerful rebuke to this administration. But John Fetterman said yes. So Markwayne Mullin will in fact be your new secretary of DHS. Obviously, it's got to pass through the rest of the floor vote. The systems of hegemony are coming for us all. Let me just, if I may, close it out this way. How many of you remember that movie, Independence Day? How could you forget? Most of America, got to get my other spindrift. Most of America right now Do you remember that scene when the alien ship is over the building? I think it's in New York, and they're sitting up there and they're standing beneath the spaceship, and they're having like a rave, a party on the roof of the building. Just that's most of America right now. They're raving on top of a building while the aliens are getting ready to destroy us. And then they look up all of a sudden. Oh, they're coming. They're coming to save us. And then they get turned into ashes. That's most of the country, most of the world right now, actually. But you, it's not you. You are not on the building partying. You are on the street organizing. You are finding people in your community and saying, watch out for this danger. Look out for this thing that is coming for all of us. Don't listen to what they're telling you. See what you see with your own eyes. And you're building collective power, collective action, and you're helping to save people. That's the difference. Don't get me started on the bunker raves in Israel that are happening right now. That's a whole other show for a whole other day. But in times like this, when things are difficult, you do have to take stock. You have to take stock of where you are, what you believe, who you are, and who you are protecting. So don't be gloomy. You can find two ways of having hope. You can rave on top of the Empire State Building just before the aliens turn you into ashes. Or you can find power in the connection of the streets. I choose the latter, and I suspect you do as well. It is March 19th, 2026. That is the show for the day. Hope you have a wonderful day. Please take a moment to go subscribe to the